Call this general committee meeting to order. Procedural notes. This meeting will be held electronically as per section 19, of the town's procedural bylaw, number 6228-19, as amended due to the COVID-19 situation. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Councillor Kim, seconded by Councillor Gallo. Comments or questions? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Community presentations, we have none. Delegations, none at this time. Mr. Clerk, none have come in?
To you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. No delegations.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Nothing on the consent agenda. We'll move to advisory committee meeting minutes. We have two. Anyone would like to ask a question or pull one of those items? Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the Accessibility Advisory Committee, I just would like to know when the accessibility plan to 2024 will come to council.
Thank you. Ms. Van Leeuwen? I believe that's you.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would have to check with the accessibility advisor and I can send you an email, definitely.
Thanks.
Councillor?
That's fine. Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you. Any other questions or any item to be pulled off the advisory committee meeting minutes? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the advisory committee meeting minutes 7.1 and 7.2? Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Gardner. Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Items requiring discussion onto our regular agenda. 8.1, Museum Plan 2021-2025. We have a presentation by Shauna White, Curator, Aurora Museum and Archives. Mr. Clark?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And to you, we do have Ms. White, the museum curator, in attendance tonight, and she is going to share her screen for the presentation.
Thank you. Shauna, welcome.
Good evening. Let me just share the screen here. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight to share with you the plans for the next stage of the museum's development. I had the pleasure of addressing you over a year now at the end of 2019 with our progress related to the first plan, and that was right before the Great Pack Up and COVID. Now that the foundation of the museum has firmly in place, our focus has been shifting to the new 5-year plan, which is to grow a robust and relevant community museum. The mission of the Aurora Museum Archives is to serve as a repository for the collective stories and experiences of the town of Aurora. We are committed to preserving, promoting, and presenting the vibrant and ever-changing character of the town by making our collection accessible and available. Many people believe that my role is confined to the past, the history of this community. But one must acknowledge that yesterday is history. And to be truly robust and relevant means that I must be aware of what is happening in the community in order to preserve, promote, and present the vibrancy and change as it happens. My eye is continually looking forward to what future curators would want to have documented and preserved. Like the first, this plan is divided into 4 key areas, with each having its own express goal: access, collections management and conservation, partnerships, and programs and outreach. The plan has 4 goals, 15 strategies, and 50 action items. We'll start with the first one, which is access, which is with the goal to increase access to the collection. This is the biggest category with 6 strategies and 21 action items. Well, I don't have time tonight to go through all of them with you. They are summarized at the beginning of the museum plan on page 5. What I want to highlight for you tonight is one of the action items and what we're doing in response. And that is number 2. Look for unconventional and exciting exhibition opportunities. You may have noticed that there is a feature wall at Town Hall that is a condensed version of our Queen's York Rangers exhibit. We were able to get this installed last spring, right before things were locking down. This wall was the first foray into utilizing unconventional exhibition locations. Our plans expand this approach, and they're taking shape right now with the next series of walls, which are located on the second floor of Town Hall, just outside corporate communications. This unassuming wall will soon be the focal point for a modified version of our Wardrobes of Aurora exhibition. Using vinyl graphic imagery, we will incorporate photographs of textiles from our collection, along with digitized archival materials relating to clothing and fashion that was once spotted on the streets of Aurora. The center of this wall will also feature one of our exhibition cases, which will showcase a rotating selection of shoes, hats, and accessories. We are drafting designs for the entire back corner of this area, and the installation will happen sometime this spring. But we want that to be a surprise for you. So you're just going to have to wait a bit to see what we come up with. The next category is collections management and conservation. This is the vital behind the scenes work that is needed in order to be able to make our collection accessible. The goal here is to maintain and develop the collection in accordance with accepted museum standards and practice. There are 3 strategies and 11 action items. And the one that I will highlight tonight is number 8, draft a storage plan for the new spaces at Library Square. You may remember that we spent the better part of last year meticulously documenting and packing up the collection for storage off-site. The move consisted of 30,000 plus artifact and archival materials, 20,090 barcode labels, 1,158 carefully packed boxes, 544 square feet of cushioning foam, 350 feet of acid-free tissue, 195 sheets of corrugated plastic pads, 150 silica gel packs, 54 crates, 24 rolls of packing tape, 4 separate move crews, and 1 happy but exhausted museum team. And this was all done during COVID with reduced staff and socially distanced protocols in place. Well, we need to bring it all back and into a new storage area. I roughly drafted this first sketch as the plans were still in flux, just to see if everything would actually fit into the space that I wanted it to. It does, despite the fact that the plan, which is to scale, believe it or not, the plan has been reduced by roughly 6 feet. So I'm squished down a bit, but I actually still will fit everything in, but I still need to rework the plan and see exactly where the best place to look at. My favorite area is the visible storage. So if you're when you have a chance to the Library Square plans, coming in off of the plaza through the cafe towards the elevator, there is this glass wall where you'll be able to see what we're doing. So we're going to be unpacking in there, having a Q&A answer session for people to see what we're doing and really show the work. And then during the regular, once we're unpacked, there'll be the opportunity to have extra display there and for people to have a sneak peek behind the scenes as well. During the pack up, we took the time to redevelop our approach to storage. And you can see Michelle working in the shelving area of small artifacts where everything was pretty much just lined up on shelves. We needed to ensure that everything was properly wrapped and cushioned for the move, but we went one step further. Jeremy designed and constructed custom-built trays for each item or group of item, and these fit onto our existing shelving units and can be stacked. So this creates efficiencies in storage, but it also reduces waste. Each of these trays fits into cardboard boxes that were packed for storage, and they will be reused or recycled when they're unpacked, while the objects themselves will remain safely stored in their own little nests and put on the shelves. Our third category is partnerships, with the goal to connect with local residents and community groups to build capacity. Here we have 3 strategies and 8 action items. The first being to actively pursue opportunities to include diverse voices. Well, I did not have to wait too long for that. I'm still coming off the high from the incredible series of events that were developed with Fiona Durant and the Aurora Black Community Group to celebrate Black History Month. It's community-driven events like this that I believe provide the best opportunity to build that relevant museum. I believe that the museum and the municipality as a whole should play whatever role that we can to support and amplify what is already happening at the grassroots level within the town. Aurora is full of incredibly gifted, intelligent, and caring residents who want their voices heard. I, for one, am listening and look forward to pursuing partnerships with anyone who wants to come to the planning table. The final area has the most potential for growth, and that's programs and outreach. The goal here is to connect, engage, and inspire our community. 2 action items stand out. Number 4, maintain flexibility to be able to participate in unforeseen opportunities, such as Black History Month, which I received the call on January 21st of this year. And number 1, to work with our cultural partners to explore collaborative programming opportunities. We started this last year with Culture Days, which will continue this year as well. In fact, our first planning meeting with the group is on Thursday. I've also started discussions with some of our cultural partners around programming opportunities for Library Square. Our first museum exhibition is tentatively titled Journey to the Crossroads, and it's about immigration from the earliest years to present day. I'm inviting our partners to explore this theme through their own initiatives to help create a vibrant year of programming in our new home. That's it for tonight, but I can tell you that we have big plans over the coming years, including this May, when we will be launching our new museum website to celebrate May is Museum Month. So please stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you, Shauna. Council, before I ask for any questions for Shauna, the recommendation is that report number CMS 21-009 be received, and 2, that the museum plan 2021-2025 be endorsed in principle, subject to council approval of budgetary implications. Someone like to move that? Councillor Humphreys, second. Councillor Kim. Any comments or questions for Shauna or to the report? Councillor Humphreys.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ms. White, for your presentation this evening on so many fronts. First of all, I'm so excited and thankful for where our museum has started and where it's going and everything in between. I love the fact that you're making things more accessible so we can have our artifacts displayed in different ways, rotating, exciting, different. Always a surprise. Like you mentioned, we'll have to wait and see. So I'm super excited about this. I really, really am. And I just wanted to thank you very much for your personal involvement in the development for the museum, but also in your participation for this past month's Black History Month for Aurora. You had a huge role to play, and I witnessed your support of the committee, and it was just outstanding. And I couldn't be more proud of your personal engagement with that, and the current and your engagement with the museum and how it's evolving. I just wanted to share those comments. I'm really excited. I'm very supportive of this motion before us, this item before us tonight, and looking forward to leaving things in your capable hands. You've proven time and time again that you can deliver, and I'm very excited about this evolution. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Shauna, I'm almost speechless. I shudder when I have to move from house to house. I can't imagine. This really is a feat. And in the process, you've created some very innovative ways of storage and display. So thank you very much. Councillor Humphreys has said it so eloquently. There's really not much I can add. Not to detract from your presentation, but I'm wondering, well, 2 things. The glass wall that you were talking about in the new building, you mentioned you were squished, so your space has been decreased. Has that glass wall space also been decreased?
Shauna?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, the glass wall
Okay.
has not. It just means I've just lost a little bit of room out that was needed to accommodate some other features back there. It still all fits. I just don't have as big of an aisleway as I would have liked, but that whole area in the back there was not touched, and that is the area I'm most excited about. It really is going to provide a unique opportunity to engage with people and watch us as we work.
It'll be great when people come in. You've used a lot of amazing packing material. Is that something we're going to be able to perhaps sell to someone else or have another use for?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The packing materials, each of those little trays, they stay as in. They're archival materials, so they'll go on there. The cardboard boxes in which they are can be reused or recycled, but the actual containers that we have, the crates, they are plastic, corrugated plastic, waterproof, and I'm already in discussion with other departments in the town who are looking for them. They're great for putting our special events stuff in. They can stack up to 4 high. They're really quite dynamic, so I'm not sure. We could sell them if we wanted, but I think we will be able to find a use for them internally.
I remember looking, for the actual layers that you needed to keep these from being hurt, the paper and the foam and all of that. There must be masses of that.
Well, the boxes come in the crates and they're stacked on top of each other with a layer of corrugated plastic sheeting in between. We reutilize that all the time. We do that to build other things. So there's not going to be very much. We are so mindful of our waste for sure. So we are using things that are sustainable, that are reusable or easily recyclable.
Thank you. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ken.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ms. White, for a wonderful presentation, and thank you for the hard work over the years. I have to say that in my first term, when the museum and archives started up, I had my doubts, frankly. But you certainly, the last couple of years especially, really did tremendous work to, change that doubt into to a lot of promise, and I'm very encouraged by where this is going. When I was reading through the report, 3 out of the 4 themes that you indicated, are access, partnerships, programs, and outreach, and really the key to programming, which is indicated in the report, is compelling programming. Unless you have diversity and being inclusive, and that goes along with the theme of access, you can't have a successful museum or art gallery or any cultural event without diversity, inclusiveness. And you seem to have done that, moving in that direction in the last several months, and I applaud you for that. You're not going to have that audience unless you have a movement into other segments of the population. When we think about museum, like you said in your presentation, when you think about the past and the history, and the museum wasn't meant to be singularly designed and have one thought, which is history. And by moving into the present and the future and the diversity it represents, it really makes the programming dynamic. I'm really looking forward to what you have planned for the museum in the future, because it's really not about the past, as you said. And so thank you very much for the hard work, and I look forward to a lot of good things in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you through you to Shauna. Thank you very much for this presentation. You guys always do a fabulous job. And oh my gosh, with all the pivoting that you guys have had to go through since this pandemic, I know it hasn't been easy. It's been one of the hardest hit industries, no doubt. So congrats for keeping you guys yourselves above water and moving forward and coming out with this plan, and all the work obviously you did with the Black History Month as well. So give yourselves a big pat on the back for that, because you guys had to transition quite a bit. So I see that you guys are really working hard to a great future. I guess my only question would be, I know that noticed you had collaborate with cultural partners and continuing for programming and such. And I just wondered if you were able to commence with any of those meetings in collaboration. I know COVID has kind of put a halt to a little bit of that, but have you guys been able to at least begin those dialogues now that's in 2021?
Shauna?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, in fact, we have. I've been having individual discussions with different cultural partners just to see if, am I on the right track? Is this something that they'd be supportive of? And every single one are like, yes, we want in, we want to do this. I believe that that's my role, and that's the role of the town, is to facilitate the dialogue and to help and to support. And also, I need the help as well. I mean, we're a small team. We're 2.5 people, so I can't do it without collaboration and partnership. And we're having our first kickoff meeting for Culture Days on Thursday. Also working very closely with Phil Rose Donahoe on the cultural partner and the cultural master plan, and those discussions will be continuing and will be starting up as well. But I'm all for bringing everybody to the table, and in fact bringing more people to the table. I don't think there's such a thing as too many voices, because right now there's not enough voices who are calling out for this. So I'll talk to everybody.
That's really good to hear. Thank you. And I think that's really great to hear. And I know you guys as well had, not you in particular, but the department in general had reached out to collaborate with even more people and bring them in, which I think that process may have already been done, but maybe has had the first meeting. So I think it's great that there are more representation of the cultural sector, and you guys bring a lot to the table, and the more that we can collaborate, the better. So thanks, great job. Keep in there. I know there's more granting apparently that was announced today, 25 million. Hopefully we can take advantage of some of that. I don't know, but there's always something that's a benefit if we just keep talking and pulling through. So great job.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor. Certainly echo the comments of my colleagues around the table. Shauna, you've done a great job of preserving and promoting and presenting the town and our heritage over the past few years. But I did have a few questions for you with respect to the report, specifically with regards to the summary of the museum services operating requirements, the chart in there that talks about, the projected budget for the next 5 years. And so I guess my question really is, I noticed that, we are bringing on an additional person, or proposing to bring on an additional person in 2022 to, I guess, expand the education and programming that we're doing in the space. But I don't see any corresponding increases in revenue. And so I guess my question really is when we look at the budget going forward, what are we doing to grow revenue? And why it doesn't seem to reflect that in the budget you've presented?
Shauna?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We don't currently do any school programming at all. We don't have, we didn't have the space to do it, and I don't have the person to do it. So so we're planning on bringing somebody in. There will be revenue attached to this, but I would be guessing. I would be incredibly guessing, because it's not like the museum already had a program and we're just continuing it. We don't. We have no baseline to base it on. So I don't want to pull figures out of the air based on nothing. But there will be corresponding revenue. That will be our only revenue line. I mean, the museum is a service that's provided, much like the library. There's no cost to residents to come in and see, but there will be cost for formal programming. So the position is to bring that programmer in to develop those programs. And I don't want to put a budget number of revenue out there to hamper in any way, what that person might develop and might come on. But you're right, there will be revenue with that. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I just hesitate to take a guess. It's a stab in the dark, really.
Well, we are presenting your plan, so I think through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. White again, it's not a bad thing to look at over a 5-year horizon to say, look, these are some of the metrics that we want to do in terms of growing this aspect of the program. And I get it that, you know, it's a bit of a shot in the dark, but it's always good to have targets. I think that if we have a number there, then it gives us a goal to reach at. And I hear you when you say that, you know, it's a service similar to the library, but I'll share that when I sat on the library board, I still challenged the library board to grow revenue, even if it was just incremental in any which way, because at the end of the day, the revenue that you're able to generate just means that it's less of a requisition from the taxpayers. And so even if it's still a little bit, I would still encourage the museum to look for ways to generate revenue from what they're doing. And so, you know, I look forward to seeing future budgets, but you know, if I'm part of that process, I certainly would want to continue to see some attempts to grow revenue, be it through sponsorships, be it through finding partners, be it through generating revenues from programs, whatever the avenues are. And there are avenues available to yourself and museums to do that. Granted, they're limited, and the expectations are never that the museum is going to pay itself, but anything that can be done would be great. My second question really is, again, following that same train of thought, is that we've talked with all departments really about the development of KPIs, you know, sort of metrics that we can put in place to gauge the success of a particular action or department. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. White, have you given some thought to what we could look at as terms of KPIs to be able to gauge the effectiveness or success of what the museum is trying to achieve?
Ms. White?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the action items are in essence the KPIs. So as I went through my last plan and with the update for you with out of the strategies and items there, how many were done, how many weren't done. I can certainly refine it back. I may say something a little controversial here. KPIs to me are so broadly worded, and I'm not sure I necessarily agree with, you know, just broadly using that term. I'd rather come up with specific actions and plans that are measurable, that you can look back. Did we do what we said we were going to do? Rather than coming up with a increase attendance by X amount or whatever, because I can't measure that. We don't have ticket sales. We don't have, you know, a counter that comes in, it's open. So I have to measure by my actions and by what we do as a museum. I can certainly take a stab at some KPIs, but to me, it's much more productive to judge me and the museum plan based on these action items and how much we realized and did what we said we were going to do.
Counselor?
Thank you. And certainly I support that. It's just about having some sort of measure, be it that or something else, to at least be able to gauge the effectiveness of what we're doing. At the end of the day, you know, it is taxpayers' dollars, and it's always good upon us to be able to evaluate that to some degree. Some areas are much harder than others, but at least something should be there. And I appreciate the efforts you've made. And certainly, if the past is any indication, I look forward to what you're going to do as the museum continues to grow and expand over the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Gallo?
Thank you, and thank you, Ms. White, for everything you've done. I share the comments that my colleagues have said, and the museum has gone certainly a long way. Just along the same questions on the operating budget. Under other operating expenses, the first line under there, exhibitions, collections, management, online initiatives, and programs. Could you just explain that one?
Shauna?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. So the operating budget for the museum is set up in these categories. So the bulk of the budget is operating expenses. So rather than just list operated expenses, I you know, put it down in the plan of what that actually is. So this is basically the bulk of what we need. So it's our cost for developing exhibitions, it's a cost for materials, it's a cost for anything we do with graphic design and with production and any of our stuff we do on the website, all of those expenses are in there. We're redeveloping our website this year, so that expense is in there. All of our behind the scenes, so all of our supplies that we need, the boxes that we need, the acid-free materials that we need, any of the conservation work that has to be undertaken to objects that have, received damage or are in danger, that would come through there. And then the other areas are just sort of other budget lines that I have as well.
So the
Counselor?
Mr. Mayor, the collections management, that's, I guess, cost associated with that, not necessarily any labor associated with that, or is there?
Shauna?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there might be a little bit of labor, but not in terms of part-time or full-time. So no. So this is if somebody's coming on and helping with a project or something, and there's a cost to use their service or that kind of thing. But yeah, labor is in with our full and part-time budget.
Counselor?
And I mean, we can explore this further once these numbers come to the budget, which I'm sure they will. I guess I share the viewpoint that it's hard for me to grasp, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it's just the nature of it, hard to grasp kind of the return on investment on these types of things, because they're cultural in value, and the value to the community is very hard to pinpoint to a dollar. So again, if there's any matrix that are out there, I'd be happy to review them. And again, once this comes back to budget, we can explore further. But thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Humphrey, second time.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of more questions. Thank you. Shauna, just a quick question. How long have you been the curator for our museum now?
Shauna?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I started in December 2014.
Right. So before you, we didn't have a museum. And now we're looking for return on investment. So I would venture to say this is the smallest department in our organization, a town run, or, so to be honest with you, asking for a return on investment where this is just a startup company. Now, I do believe KPIs are important. Absolutely. I think getting the museum up and running and having this fantastic display of our culture and where you're going is incredible. And I don't want you to remove your focus. There's only 2.5 people there. So you need to focus on that, but absolutely, there's some things you can show off. I mean, I bet you could prove that museum's interest is going up every day. I bet you could. Your heart and soul is in the development and pushing forward the vision of the museum. But I bet you those KPIs, I can tell just from the residents' feedback that we have a museum that we didn't have for, I think, 20 years. The artifacts were in the basement of the cultural center, and thank goodness, we were able to save that. So I'm just ecstatic, for the last several years that you've been come along, you were able to increase, add a staff or two, and you're just getting there. And you've come so far for such a large feat, and not much, really given to you other than yourself and your resources. But I do believe that you'll be surprised when you look back at KPIs, like, tracking these things, you'll be shocked how great you're doing, I think. Personally, I mean, you already know in terms of where you want to go and evolve, but who's using, who's seeing, who's looking, I think you'll be shocked. I would venture to say that you're going to be very happy. Personally, from what I'm hearing, and the way you're going to make it accessible is going to be so exciting. My question though is, through you, Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Thompson, for some sort of ways to revenue, maybe not charging, but is there anything in terms of not particularly fundraising, but I know based on many residents I spoke to that they would like to leave a bequest, I think or not inheritance, but when they leave, and maybe we could develop a program, because I know there was one person in particular, and I've said this story many times, my colleagues will be bored of this one, but when I first ran for council in 2010, Fran Neal, who was John West's partner, said to me, "You're going to make that museum come back, right? You guys are going to do that, right?" And I'm so proud that we did, this council and other councils before us made this happen. And her biggest thing was she wanted to leave things, monetary and items. So maybe if there isn't a program, and it could be my ignorance, Shauna, but that could be something. And I know there's many Aurorans and new Aurorans, Aurorans that have been here for hundreds of years, families that would probably love to donate to their museum. So that's just something to think about in terms of maybe there's a program of that nature. But again, only 2.5 for you to get that work done. So not easy. But I just wanted to share that with you. I don't know if you have a response or something to think about, but I just wanted to say just want to give those little comments.
Shauna,
Hey, Mr. Mayor.
did you have a?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'm always looking for revenue opportunities. I'm just hesitant to put a number on
Sure,
those. So
absolutely.
there are grants that I will pursue. And in fact, the years I spent at the McMichael, the biggest donations we got were through educational programming for children. And that is a huge thing because nobody wants to pay to put a new shelf in the storage area. But if you want to do a new program for youth, there is lots of money. And I have no doubt that I will be able to secure that. I just don't want to sit here today and promise you that I will do that. But I am absolutely looking for different ways to expand what we do through partnership. And you'll see one of my action items is to grow the sustainability and to do that through a multitude of ways. So yes, absolutely. Like there are bequests. Bring them on. Like I'm happy to help with somebody to do that and say that we needed to establish our presence.
Absolutely.
It's only now that people are kind of realizing that, oh, you're not the cultural center. Oh, you're not the historical society. You're the town's museum. So we need to lay that foundational work. And now we're there. Now we just continue growing and continue doing this so that we become a natural thought for people to, hey, I want to leave some money to the museum. And I think that will happen when we reopen in Library Square and you can see what we're doing and how we're going to be doing it in person, online, and through publications and through other things that we're doing that it's going to be a natural thing to say, hey, we're going to leave a little something to the museum. So
fantastic. Thank you, Shauna. Yeah. Thank you. I knew that. I just wanted to share that. Thank you. Absolutely. And again, fantastic work. I just wanted to just bounce up, but you've already got it. I'm not worried. Thank you so much. Can't wait for the next steps.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gallo, second time.
Thank you. Just a quick response to Councillor Humphreys with all due respect. And I don't think she means she's not interested in return on investment. I'm not sure why she phrased it that way, but I am, notwithstanding the fact that, as I hope you all know, I understand the value of cultural services that it brings to the community. However, if this money was coming out of my pocket, that's my problem. It's not, and I'm responsible to the taxpayers. And therefore, I am interested in a return on investment, no matter what the program is. And I'm not saying you're doing a bad job, and that wasn't meant to be a criticism. It's simply checks and balances to make sure we're getting value for our money. And I openly admit that's not an easy thing to do in the cultural services sector. But withstanding that, it's important for us to do this, and I represent the community and their money, and it's incumbent upon me to make sure their money is well spent.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none. Shauna, thank you very much for coming. When it comes to our heritage and our history, it's a big component of our town. I think we hear it time and time again. We hear it during election time as well, actually. Everyone talks about preserving, protecting, and promoting our heritage and our history. And so I think every single person around this table looks at how we can make sure that we're providing the best possible services at the best possible price. We're always looking at what we can do to save taxpayers any money. But I think when you look at our heritage, there's an immense amount of value that I think that sometimes you just can't put a value on, because we need to continue to preserve, protect, and promote that heritage. Because I think some people have always said that you need to know where you come from to know where you're going. And that's important to our town, I think overall from the majority. And so I'm looking forward to a lot of the things that you're doing. Obviously, we'll all count the pennies very carefully, but we'll continue to look at how we can ensure that our heritage has a long-lasting legacy as we continue to move forward to the future in a positive direction. So thank you very much for coming and presenting today. I appreciate it. And we're looking forward to budget time. Council, with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you, Shauna. Council, we will move to 8.2, Library Square alternate name. Recommendation is that report number CMS 21-010 be received for information. Would someone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Kim, second by Councillor Thompson. Comments or questions on this report? Councillor Thompson.
Sorry, thank you. Just a couple quick questions. I guess one, I understand that the intent really is just to put this in front of us to make us aware. But it also says that they're going to bring back a second report in the spring of 2021. So I read that to be in the next month or two. Through you to Mr. Rose Donahue, Phil. Is that correct? Is that your intention to bring it back to us in May or June?
Phil?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. That's correct. Yeah, we anticipate before, I would imagine, probably a general committee report in May is what we're looking at right now.
Councillor?
So through you to Phil, so you see in the report that, there is no choice at this point in time. So what's going to change between now and then for you to be able to identify what the recommended name is?
Phil?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Well, we've already done, as the report indicates, we've already done some internal consultation with yourselves, as well as some external consultation a couple years ago through the Place Speak portal on the town website. So we feel like, even though we haven't come up with an exact name, we feel like we have whittled, the names down. The next step is to do a little bit more research and do a little bit more consultation internally. We do plan as well to reach out to some of the stakeholders, specifically the library and the cultural center. So I think we're at the point where we collectively working with, we have a small sort of working group that includes corporate communications, Ms. McDougall, as well as some of the other corp comm staff. And we feel like we're pretty close to coming up with something that council can discuss and hopefully, make a decision on. I think it's just a matter of doing a little bit more research. We've been looking at comparisons from other municipalities across North America, as well as some research into some of the naming policies that different municipalities such as Mississauga went through to come up with the name Celebration Square. So I think we have all of the data and all of the information we need at our fingertips. It's just a matter of taking the next 2 or 3, maybe 4 weeks to sort of synthesize that data, meet collectively internally, and then come up with a final report in May for council's review.
Councillor? Oh, you're on mute, Councillor Thompson.
Sorry, once again, through you to Phil. Going to the last line of the report, it says that once the name is selected for the project as a whole, that will develop a brand for the new space that can be used for sales and marketing. So can you elaborate on how we plan to sell and market Library Square and for what purpose?
Oh.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I can't speak to that with any certainty at this point in time. We are at the point of finalizing the award of contract for the fundraising consultant. And we've gone through that process beginning at the end of last year. And we're just in the final stages of awarding that contract. So I think that's gonna, the details will be figured out in consultation with our consultant, as well as, the internal staff, Ms. McDougall, the CAO, et cetera. One of the things we originally thought was that we would have one name for the entire project that would be protected, that we would hold on to as a municipality, that would be something that would remain in perpetuity as the name. in conversations, with some of the consultants we interviewed for the RFP, we realized that we don't necessarily want to leave money on the table, so to speak. And that was kind of the advice that we got back. So we want to consider everything, whether it's, the entire name for the facility, as well as each of the different elements that comprise the entire, campus, so to speak, whether it's the performance hall, the sky bridge, or the outdoor space. And so we want to be able to have, those conversations with a consultant, learn from, best practice in other municipalities, and come back with something to council. So at this point, I can't necessarily say. I do know that, some of the consultation you've done with yourself, Councillor Thompson, and other council members, that we don't want to have every, nook and cranny of the facility sold off for naming rights or sponsorship. So we're mindful of that, but we still want to explore, what we can name and what we can leverage for fundraising purposes, with the idea that we want to raise approximately $5 million through this process.
Councillor?
Thank you. And, we did talk not recently, but through that process, and just about my thoughts on branding and putting a logo on the space. I get having an identity for the building like we did for the Armory to market it and for rentals and so forth, and same with the library. I'm not sold on the idea of creating a brand for Library Square so we can put it on coffee cups and t-shirts and so forth and market it that way. I'm hesitant to do that. We're in, I'll say, the customer service business. We serve the residents and this is their space. And so, I want to be cautious about renting it out or using it for sales and marketing. So, those are my concerns, and I look forward to that final report and having a fuller conversation on it. But, I need to be convinced for a brand logo for the entire space as opposed to certain components of it.
Thank you, Councillor.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, if I could just respond, certainly, as we go through the process with the fundraising campaign, and again, even, regarding the final name for this project, everything, of course, is going to be coming back through council, and you'll have the final say to approve what we bring forward.
Thank you, Phil. Councillor Gallo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Rose Donahoe. Could you just go through the process again? I know when we met in terms of the naming, we at the meeting we actually got some samples and all that. But I'm curious to see what your ideas are in terms of the final decision. Is it staff's recommendation that in a report you'll recommend a particular name and brand, and then we choose yes or no to that, or multiple, and we decide, or how do you foresee this?
Sure, through you, Mr. Mayor. So taking some of the, consulting again with Corp Communications, specifically Ms. Bennett, we realized that we do need to come up with a name. We want to begin the rebranding as quickly as possible. And as mentioned, we want to align it with our fundraising initiative as much as possible. So, our approach right now is that we're going to take the next 3, 4, 5 weeks to do a bit more consultation, to do a bit more research, to look at, the feedback that yourself, Councillor Gallo, and other members of council gave us back in November. And we think that we have, as I mentioned previously, that we have enough that we can come forward with names that we're confident in, that we can provide one name that we're going to make a recommendation on for approval, and then one alternate name. And ultimately, if council decides that neither name is appropriate, we'll go back to the drawing board and we'll see what the next step is. But our hope is that we'll come forward in May with a report that says this is the name that we think we can leverage for, that sort of speaks to the nature of the facility. We can leverage for fundraising purposes. And then we'll come up with an alternate. So I think at that time, we'll be looking for council to say yay or nay to one or both of those names. And if it turns out that we hit a dead end at that point, then we'll go back to the drawing board, as I said. There is some sense of urgency in the sense that we want, again, to begin the rebranding process as quickly as possible. And we do want to align it with the fundraising campaign, but we want to get it right. And so if it takes a little bit longer than we anticipate, then so be it.
Councillor?
Okay, as long as there's time to digest it, as I mentioned, when we did meet, we were just told these and provide input at that very meeting. And I don't know about you, but I'm not very good at meaningful input when just being shown something and tried to provide some feedback. So as long as there's time between when we see it and we have a discussion, at least we can provide some meaningful feedback. Thanks.
Thank you,
Through-
Council. Oh,
if I
go
could
ahead,
just-
Phil.
Sorry,
Yep.
I would just address that, Mr. Mayor. I think what we'll try to do is in preparing the next report before we go back to council, maybe doing a little bit more consultation with council to make sure that what we're putting in the report seems to work before it actually gets to general committee. So we'll do that, and I'll speak with the internal team that's working on this, and we'll make sure that we line those dates up as much as we can.
Thank you. Councilor Gilliland.
Thank you. Just a quick question. You had mentioned you want to align with the fundraising strategy, and I don't recall that we had gotten any kind of fundraising strategy back. So have we already decided what direction we're going in, or is this a separate report?
Phil?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I think all I can say at this point in time, because I think it's procurement and legal are working on potential contract. We have gone through a process of doing evaluations of written proposals as well as interviews with shortlisted interviews and presentations from shortlisted consultants. So we haven't made the final choice yet. It's not set in stone, but we're at the final stages of the RFP award, the contract award at this point. So that, if everything goes according to plan, will likely begin the process of the fundraising campaign with a startup meeting with the successful consultant sometime in later this month, I imagine.
Councilor?
Thank you. Through you. And did council agree on the actual model? Because I, for some reason, had thought that through this process that we'd be presented with different models. It wasn't specifically just one model that was awarded, that we would have the opportunity to kind of look and see what might be the most conducive for our project.
Phil?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I see that Ms. McDougall is there. Robin, do you want to speak to that?
Ms. McDougall?
Thank you very much. Through the process with regards to the fundraising or capital campaign model, we did issue the RFP, and the RFP communicated a breadth of information as far as what could be achieved. We didn't want to narrow in on one particular model of how fundraising could be garnered. It could be through naming rights. It could be through straight up sponsorship. It could be through programming contributions. So there's a variety of opportunities that could be coming forward. And so it was through the presentations that we had through the consultant's work, where we've identified what we believe has the best plan in mind going forward. So has it been to council? We brought it to council in closed session at one point through feedback on the feasibility study. We understood from there where we could drive this project. And so staff was working off of that basis.
Councillor?
Thank you. And if I recall the closed session, I don't know if we've had any report back since the new tender. Do you have any intention on presenting to council, whether it be in closed session or in general a GC, about some options as opposed to just making the decision?
Ms. McDougall?
So with regards to the procurement of this project, this is something that is from a fundraising and capital campaign opportunity. It's intended to raise funds, and that has always been our goal since the capital campaign was presented to council. And we believe we're on the right path. As far as projects and initiatives and report outs, I know that the consultants plan to summarize their goal and their work plan. The timing of when to report back that to council on that likely will be as they are progressing, more like a staged or phased report out as they progress through the project.
Councillor?
Thank you. Sorry, I missed the very first part. So I don't know what cut out. So are you saying that we're going to be presented with what the consultant that you have chosen you feel is the best path for the campaign, capital campaign fundraising initiative? Or are we as council going to, I just forgot, didn't hear the first part, going to have the option of, this is the package or this is the company that we've decided that we did the best way, but we also have this and this model. I just want to know if we're going to have that opportunity to actually look at that and have an assessment.
Ms. McDougall?
It wasn't the intention of a council-driven decision of an award. We were working within the direction we understood council was guiding us regarding the goal of the fundraising value we were pursuing. We maintained the goal of being broad of how the funds could be raised. And from that, no, our intention as it's within the procurement bylaw, the ability for us to proceed, we had intended to do so.
Councillor?
Okay, I don't want to veer away too far because I know we're talking about the branding and the naming and the logo and everything else. But I think it's been pretty clear. I've wanted to always see kind of what those options were. I'm not going to say that I'm a perfectionist in sponsorship and fundraising campaigns, but I thought I was under the impression that we'd have that opportunity to see what those different options were just based on the last presentation that we did have in closed session. It was kind of one way to go down for as a campaign. So I would have nice to see what other opportunities might have been out there just to kind of help make that decision for Library Square campaign. Because I'm not going to say that I know what all those models look like, and it would have been nice to have that assessment. As far as the naming and the sponsorship, the branding, I like the idea of the play on words and utilizing that in some of the marketing. I think it's pretty slick. I think it's a pretty cool idea. I like how you can play into it seasonally or even culturally. And I think you guys are in a pretty good track from what we were presented last time, and got a pretty good direction as trying to have some sort of fusion of the things that were presented before. So I'm looking forward to that report in May. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you, Phil. Council 8.3, PDS 21-027, revisions to Town of Aurora Sidewalk Installation Policy 67. 1, the recommendation is 1, that report number PDS 21-027 be received. 2, that the revised sidewalk installation policy number 67 attached hereto as attachment 1 be approved by council. Someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Kim, second. Councillor Thompson, comments or questions on this item? I will call. Oh, Councillor Gallo.
Thank you. Just a comment. I've been meaning to review the meeting of September 29th just to wrap my head around some of the discussions that took place specifically around the recommendation to give delegated authority to staff to make these decisions once the roads are being reconstructed. I'm continuing to not be in favor of that delegated authority. I don't have a problem, obviously, with the changes to the AODA requirements. I think that's a no-brainer, and some of the others just make sense to me. But I'm still not in favor of giving delegated authority. I just, in the 8 or 9 years that I've been on council, yes, we've had some discussions regarding sidewalks. I think they've been fruitful discussions. I think it should remain a council decision. And I don't see a strong rationale to give delegated authority to this. It's one more avenue that we're pushing the public away to, in my opinion. Also to reduce the number from, I think it's 66% for petition and raise it to 70%, again, makes it harder for public to make any changes. And I'm not sure the rationale behind that. But between now and council, I will review the September meeting and better understand what our reasons were to recommend the delegated authority.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councillor Gallo on this one. You know, one of the things it says in the report is that communications to the residents will be very important. We seem to have done a pretty bad job with communications in at least the Kitimat instance. So as Councillor Gallo said, well, first of all, it was the Kitimat issue lasted for a long time and was very council time intensive. And I don't know whether we even reached a resolution that the residents were happy with. But I do think it's sidewalks are very important to the residents where they're going to be coming in or where they're missing. And I would like to stay in touch with that issue.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, you know, I understand some of the concerns that some members of councils may have. Certainly, public consultation in some cases are warranted and it's desirable. In the areas of safety, you know, often or perhaps sometimes public consultation is not done. You know, I don't think the government consulted with the public with regards to seatbelts. I don't think, you know, there are a lot of other safety concerns that various levels of government do not do public consultation. In many rural areas that are becoming suburban areas, when roads and homes are built, or homes are already there and roads are being reconstructed and paved, it's not consulted whether you want lights or not. For safety purposes in these areas, lights are automatically put in for safety purposes. I don't have to, you know, go on about the importance and the safety that light provides. You know, when we put up or reconstruct roads, you know, we don't do a public consultation for street lights. You don't say, oh, it's too bright. You know, we want, you know, one light post every 50 meters as opposed to every 20 meters. You know, that those are not options that the public is given. So, you know, I would just say that, you know, for safety purposes, I think safety and security trumps all things. And I think these are one of them. So, you know, I know that I believe the mayor a couple of years ago put in complete streets in a motion. And I don't think this is, you know, very far from that, other than this is just the reconstruction of roads. So I know that it does inconvenience some homeowners, and there is some consultation to try to minimize that. And I think that's built into the policy. So, you know, for those reasons, you know, I am in support of delegated authority on this matter. And I do empathize with those that it may negatively impact from a day-to-day basis. But, you know, we do try to remediate that so that it's as few as possible. But overall, I would have to, you know, say that this is an overall positive for the community and residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments for the first time before I go back to Councillor Gardner? Councillor Councillor Gilliland, first time.
Thank you. Through you, I guess my only comment is, you know, I'm going to take a look at the old report as well. I do like the opportunity for the public to have their say. So I do feel that's important. I think 70% is a little high, should be reduced at least to around 66 like Newmarket. As far as delegated authority, I mean, it does streamline things, but I do want the public to be able to have the opportunity to petition. And if there is an issue for whatever reason, it may not work everywhere. So, you know, if it merits, I want to give them the opportunity, but I'm going to dig into this further. But for now, I'm just going to hold off and agreeing with this until next when we revisit this. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner, second time.
Thank you. I think there's a really important component to the sidewalks and the communication. If we are going to communicate, if we're going to have a particular policy in place that says how we are to communicate with residents when it comes to doing sidewalks in their neighborhood, then, and they have a chance for feedback, then that is different than just giving delegated authority to staff, and it is as it is. Now, it says in the report that they can come to council, but how are they going to find out in time to be able to come to council before we approve a project? So I would like to see some more information on how that's going to be handled. And perhaps we can delegate. But as I said, we did a miserable job with Kitimat with respect to communication. So a lot would have to be changed and improved before I would want to give delegated authority. The other thing is in the report, it says, with regards to improving sidewalks, East Gwillimbury is the only municipality survey that requires council approval. And then it goes on to say, Markham and Toronto have delegated authority. There needs, I don't know, perhaps this in the report and I didn't see it, but certainly we can't compare ourselves to Markham and Toronto. There, I don't know what the population is of Markham, but it's much larger than ours, and Toronto speaks for itself. So I could understand why Markham and Toronto don't want, not to have delegated authority. But what about, I believe Newmarket does have delegated authority, but what about other municipalities that are roughly our population, more or less? Did staff do work on that?
Mr. Waters?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We surveyed a number of municipalities, and these are the results we received. Some of the municipalities did not respond back to us, but we tried to identify those in York Region that we have in common with, and we went outside York Region as well just to understand what other municipalities were doing.
Councillor?
Thank you. So did we only hear back from Markham and East Gwillimbury? In York Region?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe we also reached out to Richmond Hill and also to Vaughan, and they have no policy in place at the moment.
Right. Thank you. I did see that. I'm not convinced. Thank you, though, Mr. Waters.
Is that all, Councillor?
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Gallo, second time. Councillor, you're on mute.
So just to follow up on Councillor Kim's comments, hope his mind isn't shifted too far towards federal politics. I would encourage him to, I guess, understand the position that we're currently in. And to be honest, many people move to places like Aurora because they have much more direct contact with their council and the decision-making process. And I'm very much aware of that. And I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but bit by bit, we keep removing our authority and our decision-making, and we're making less and less decisions on behalf of the public. And some make sense to me, but these don't. I put this very similar to, if I'm not mistaken, we didn't approve the delegated authority for the fence bylaw. And the residents still have an opportunity when it comes to GC to comment. And to me, this is very similar to that. So let's not forget how we serve and who we serve. And I don't think any of us want to remove the ability for the public to communicate and share their opinions with us. I just think we should be careful when we do that.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions? Fine. So when I'm reading the reports, property owners will continue to have an option of delegating to council. I know that there's many things that we have delegated authority for, and I can tell you right now that my office is open all the time. Phone calls, doors. I have residents calling me all the time about things that we do allow for delegated authority, and I'm sure they reach out to you as well as council members. And we go and we speak to staff about that, and we look at bringing resolutions or solutions to those issues that are being brought to our attention. That's always there, regardless if there's delegated authority. This is about, I think at the end of the day, providing efficiency. As I said, our residents will continue and always continue, no matter whether we pass this or not, be able to speak to each and every one of us. And I think it's dependent upon not the policy, it's dependent upon each and every one of us that sit at this table about what our thoughts are about how open we are with the public and how we allow them to come in and speak to us. As I said, my door is always open. My phone's always open. Everyone has my personal cell number. They call me every day. I get tons of calls about hundreds of different issues, and some of them have delegated authority already. And as I said, I bring it up and we look for a resolution. That's our job. You're correct. Our job is to serve the public, and I think each and every one of us do a great job at doing that. Any other comments or questions? Call out. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We will move to Council 8.4. Revised 2021 water, wastewater, and stormwater rates. The recommendation is 1, that report number FIN 21-009 be received. 2, that the revised 2021 retail water rate of $2.18 per cubic meter and the retail wastewater rate of $2.79 per cubic meter be confirmed. And 3, that the 2021 flat storm water charges of $9.18 per month for residential and condominium properties and $116.64 per unit per month for metered non-residential commercial, industrial, and multi-residential properties be confirmed. And 4, that the newly confirmed retail water, retail wastewater, and stormwater charge rates become effective for all billings issued by the town on or after May 1st, 2021, and be retroactive for all consumption newly billed on such billings. And 5, that the 2021 bulk water rates of $4.97 per cubic meter dispensed effective May 1st of the effective year be confirmed. And 6, that the necessary bylaw to amend municipal waterworks distribution be brought forward to a future council meeting for enactment. Would someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Gardner, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Comments or questions on this item? Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to go into eScribe for a minute.
Sure.
I think the residents are going to be very happy with this policy. It says at the bottom of page 2 that we are going to be decreasing the rates while being able to continually fully fund the rate funded services. So I'm not, I know whether we're keeping our stormwater charge I think as it is, or certainly higher, because we need that money for our infrastructure work for flood protection. But I thought the point was that we were to raise the region was raising its rates so that they could make sure that all aspects of the system from start to finish were fully funded to be taken care of. And then that would be passed down to the municipalities. So we would raise enough money to ensure maintenance and repairs and new infrastructure was fully funded. So I don't understand how we can reduce the rates and still fully fund the service from soup to nuts.
I'll get Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel to answer, but just to add, if it is in the report, Councillor, that the region set it at 0
Yes, I know.
after we set ours. So, but I'll let Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel speak to it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So in our budget, we assumed that the region was going to charge the 2.9%, which was consistent with their previous water rate study, because at the time we came forward with the budget, the region had yet to make a decision on the increase that they were going to include for 2021. So partway through our process, just before our budget approval, they decided to go ahead with a 0% increase for 2021. So effectively, these rates pass along that savings for the water and wastewater rates. So while it's the region that needs to do the analysis on the fully funding of their assets, what we're saying on that line that Councillor Gartner pointed out is that we are still fully funding our services in our budget. So our rate budget, the only change is an equivalent reduction to revenues reduced for these rates, which is offset by a reduction to expenses from the wholesale cost that they'll receive from the region for the water.
Councillor?
Thank you very much. So the region is reducing, we do have to worry about the region because we pay for the region's expenses, but what we're saying is the region might have decided not to fully fund the cost of the full life cycle of the infrastructure requirements, but Aurora is still going to do that. Whatever is in our jurisdiction we're going to make sure that we're completely whole.
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So what this does is it fully funds what we have included in the budget thus far. We have not done the complete asset management analysis yet over the long term, and that's part of one of the recommendations that will come forward as part of the fiscal strategy, that we start doing longer term analysis, particularly for asset management. And then we will understand if we're on a full cost recovery basis for asset management. The region did do that in their 2015 water rate study that they brought forward. And that's why they recommended the rates that they included for the following 6 years, which included 9% increases up to 2020, plus a 2.9% increase in 2021.
Councillor?
Thank you. You said that better than my question was asking, but the bottom line is that the 2.9, obviously the region isn't raising that 2.9, so they will be out that money in order to contribute that to the infrastructure. Is that what I'm taking away from this?
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, essentially that is correct. Any shortfall that they would have in their budget would be offset by either potential savings they may have in operations or reduction to their reserves. So their water and wastewater reserves, they include reserves for asset management, but also for stabilization. So for years where volumes may increase or decrease due to weather, because weather does have an impact on the overall consumption of water throughout the region.
Thank you. So not being able to see the future, this 2.9 might somehow come back to us over a number of years or in another year.
I'll answer that. It's definitely going to come back.
Okay.
This is just, I got to be honest with you, the region just basically punted the football down the field, and it's going to come back.
Okay, so certainly for our residents who are struggling now, this is a good news story. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Through you to Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel, just to confirm the report. So in essence, the overall rates year over year are going to increase by $29.40, which is a reduction of $56.16 from the proposed 2021 budget. Is that, to use Councillor Gartner's phrase, from soup to nuts?
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I haven't heard that phrase before, but essentially, yes. So we are going to be charging less than what we had anticipated in the budget. So we are passing along all the savings that the town will be receiving to our customers.
Which is great. It's still an increase year over year, but it's minimized, which is great. And so when I look at the table 2 in the report, it also shows a reduction in the rates for 2022. So that means that this reduction is carried forward at this point in time as well?
Ms. Mayor Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it is, but it's still subject to the fact that we do not have confirmed rates from the region for 2022.
Sure.
We are planning on bringing a rate study forward later this year, and that will give us more information about what the rates will be in the future years.
Great. Thanks very much.
Councillor?
Good.
Thank you. Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, this is certainly good news in the short term. And when I read the report, you know, my obvious concern was that similar to if we put our property taxes at 0, we know that we still have to play catch up and charge any potential increase that we forewent this year in the subsequent year. In our conversation earlier in the day, Ms. Rachel Wainwright Van Kessel. So I know the mayor said, you know, the region's punting it, but, you know, are they really going to punt it, or is it a matter of, you know, York Region's infrastructure is more youthful than other regions, and therefore there's a little bit more flexibility? And, you know, the last time the region did their water wastewater master plan was in 2016, and I believe they're scheduled to update that this year. And so with their, you know, master plan being updated this year, affords them a little bit of duration flexibility. Is that the reason? Could that be a pro reason that rates will not double next year, and we do have we're going to have a consistency next year as well in terms of, you know, 2.9 or thereabouts?
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So while I can't speak to what rates the region will come forward, there's a number of factors that they'll need to consider as they bring forward a rate study. So a water rate study is different from a master plan. The master plan actually speaks to the infrastructure needs over the long term for the growing community, whereas the rate study speaks to the funding for the asset management and the reserves and the actual rates to be charged on water over about a 6-year period. That was how long their last one was. But there are a few things that they'll need to consider as they develop their new rate study. The last rate study included the goal of reaching full cost recovery for all their asset management obligations. The region's assets were still relatively young. As you know, over the last number of years, like 10, 20 years, we've gone through a significant amount of growth across the York region. And what that's resulted in is we have a lot of new assets that are being put in underground with significantly long lifespans. A lot of these underground assets can have a lifespan of up to about 80 years. So that provides the region with time over which to save the money to pay for their assets. The other factor is the study had assumptions in there for volumes. So they'll have to take a look at the volumes and how they compare to what actually happened over the period of the previous study. So it depends on how aggressive they want to be when they bring forward a rate study as to how quickly they want to get back to where they should be, or how they are compared to where they should be based on their previous rate study. And that's the analysis they'll have to bring forward to regional council for regional council to determine at what rate they want to get back on track.
Councillor?
That's a perfect response. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this one? Seeing none, call a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Council will move to 8.5, development planning fees and charges update. Recommendation is that report number PDS 21-010 be received, and 2, that the recommended updates to the town's development planning fees and charges as presented in this report and the attached Appendix A, Schedule H to fees and charges bylaw be approved, and that the appropriate bylaw amendment be presented to a future council meeting for enactment. Someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Kim, second. Councillor Gallo. Comments or questions on this item? I will call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Move to 8.6, application for site plan approval, JE Dell Management, Inc., for 2 Scanlon Court, part of Lot 150, Plan 246, file number SP 2019-01. Recommendation that 1, that report number PDS 21-032 be received. 2, that site plan application file SP 2019-01 to permit the construction of a 2-story industrial building be approved in principle subject to the following conditions. A, resolution of all outstanding technical comments from LSRCA to the satisfaction of the LSRCA and the Director of Planning and Development Services. And B, that the owner enter into a site plan agreement with the town to address requirements of the town and external agencies, including but not limited to the conveyance of land to the town for a daylight triangle at the intersection of Scanlon Court and Industrial Parkway North. Would someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Thompson, second. Councillor Kim, comments or questions on this item? I will call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Notice of motion, none. I'm sure we'll get probably a couple by council by the end of the month. New business. I'll go around the room. Councillor Gallo, new business? No. Councillor Thompson, new business? Councillor Kim, new business? No. Councillor Humphreys, new business? Councillor Gardner, new business?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Actually, quite a few things.
Are they new
I
business or PSAs? I'm just asking
No,
because we got PSAs right after.
No, I think they're new business.
Okay, go ahead.
You can stop me.
All right.
So I actually spoke with 3 residents this week that are waiting for either yourself or council to get back to them on their emails or letters or whatever communication. So one of those issues has to do with providing a place in Aurora for the senior population, especially, to be inoculated. Can you help me out with this, Mr. Mayor? I know that the Ray 20 Center has been decided, I'm guessing, by York Region Council, but is, no?
Public health.
Public health. So is there an opportunity, do you have any jurisdiction over public health?
Well, we sit on public health board, but as regional council, but
Okay.
I can answer your question because I know where you're going with this. And so if you want, I'll just simply, all 9 municipalities have offered up all our facilities.
I know.
Public health. It's a matter of public health strategically putting them in certain locations to ensure that all residents throughout all of York Region are able to access them. And because Ray 20 was chosen because they are partnering with South Lake through the hospital, and they are the ones that are actually administering the vaccine. When you look at it, the location, having a mass vaccination location in Aurora logistically doesn't make sense as far as how close they would be. There's going to be no location in Stouffville. There's going to be no location in King. As we continue to move forward through the vaccination plan, what you will see is possible smaller immunization facilities pop up in certain key locations throughout municipalities, all 9 municipalities. And then as you further get through the plan, what you'll see is that the pharmacies will begin to open up as well and start to utilize the pharmacies in administering the vaccinations. So this is in essence, it's public health's call. They've decided which locations they're going to use. As I said, we've said, all of us, Georgina, East Gwillimbury, King, Stouffville, Vaughan, Markham, we've all said all our facilities are at their call. Let us know and we're available. And they've chosen the sites that they've chosen because they strategically allow for everyone to be able to get to them in all the region.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that fulsome answer. That won't help the seniors who might be having trouble getting to the location. It's not that far, but when you're a senior, everything's harder. Is there any possibility to speak with public health and designate a couple of drugstores or doctor's offices or something that can help these seniors, because they're really not happy and they feel as taxpayers they should be able to have something a little more accommodating. So is there anything you can do about that or try to do about that?
I can bring it up, and I can tell you as we move through with the new vaccine, the AstraZeneca, it has a different way of storing it. Right now, the challenges as well are the fact that the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines need to be stored at certain temperatures, so they can't be. That's why they're not in pharmacies. That's why they're not in certain locations. You need to have the freezer equipment to actually house the vaccines, and so that's part of the issue as well. So, I mean, I'll ask, and trust me, it's not for a lack of trying. We've asked, we've all said, we'd like to, every single municipality wants to have a vaccination center within their municipality. But I can tell you there's not going to be, well, we all know from a provincial standpoint, there's not going to be 444 vaccination centers. They're going to have to put them through. And plus we don't have, we also, when you look at the amount of professionals that can actually administer the vaccines, you need to have enough people that can actually administer vaccines to open up more and more vaccination centers.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sure doctors' offices would be capable. So anything you can do for that. The other thing, one of the other things is I did mention at council, we got information from Yellow Brick House. And it says that during this pandemic, there is a 30% increase in domestic violence. And as a result, well, unfortunately, women and children being murdered, and the need that the Yellow Brick House fills. So there is a fundraiser coming up. And I'm hoping that as many of us as possible can support them, because it's just so important. With respect to Kitimat Crescent, we all know that there was a problem with an emergency vehicle trying to get through. They had to turn around because of the cars parked on either side. And Councillor Humphreys and I think Mr. Waters were pretty fast on the trigger with this one. But every day that we wait is the possibility that this will happen again. So I'm wondering if there's a way to speed up the process. I know communications and engineering and one other group is meeting next week, but is there a way to get some no parking signs on one side of the street? Is that within council's purview to suggest just temporary signs until staff figure out the process?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this would be through David Waters, the transportation analyst. Yes.
Mr. Waters?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have seen some emails in terms of this item. What I understand from bylaw is that temporary parking signs are not favorable to be implemented. So we're working on another solution that we're going to bring forward to you in a report for April.
Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Waters. That's not acceptable. I mean, I understand the process and what Mr. Waters has to go through, but we have a potential safety issue, and it's up to us to try and make sure that no one is hurt. So, I mean, is there nothing in the process that can say that council can decree that these signs are put up for 4 weeks. April's a long time away. Well, we're already in March, but I mean, a lot can happen in a month.
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I understand this is an isolated incident. I was not aware of any other incidents like this happening on Kitimat. I mean, it's up your direction. You can direct us to put up temporary signs if you wish. I mean, that can be a council direction. And we would put them up probably to take effect during the school hours at this point in time, until we come up with a more permanent solution. But definitely, if you want to direct us to do that, we can certainly do that.
So council, if you'd like to do that, you can bring a notice of motion. And we can...
Mr. Mayor, we'll be till the end of March by the time we do that. We'll be to the end of March by the time we have a council meeting that we have to think of something better.
And that's fine. I mean, unless council here wants to waive procedural bylaw to allow you to put something on the floor right now, I mean, that's the process, right?
All of us at this table are concerned about the residents' safety, and nothing may happen again, but we need to make sure it doesn't. I see Councillor Humphreys has her hand up. She was the lead on this one.
Councillor? And I might add that even if we do allow it under new business, it still wouldn't get ratified till council at the end of the month. So no matter what we do right now, it's not getting done until the end of the month. Unless we have a special council meeting just for this specific item. Councillor Humphreys?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I could be mistaken. Was there something that was going to be temporary signs put around right away until this could be ratified or looked at? Maybe I mistook the email to you, Mr. Mayor. I thought there could be something put in now so that residents would not park. We could, put some signage or temporary signage.
Mr. Waters?
I could be wrong, Mr. Mayor. I just said
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not aware of that, but I would defer to Ms. Van Leeuwen to provide that information.
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the issue with temporary signs is that unless we have a bylaw in place, it's not enforceable. We don't have the authority to enforce that no parking.
You, Mr. Mayor, may I just one comment? I think, yeah, absolutely understood. But I believe we put a temporary parking in another street recently, and it was quite effective, even though the residents may not realize it's not enforceable. I'm just suggesting, we're asking as a town not to park here.
Councillor, is it kind of like how some of the other municipalities, YRP's putting just an empty car parked to try to deter speeders? So
it does work, by the way. I slam my brakes. I'm kidding, but seriously, I mean, it's something.
Please don't.
Sounds like we're we're no matter what we do, it's not going to happen for a month.
So, councillors, why don't I suggest that maybe we can work this offline with Ms. Van Leeuwen and Mr. Waters and see what we can come up with.
That'd be perfect. If it's an imminent issue of danger and emergency vehicles not getting through, we might want to do something a little bit quicker.
So let's see what we can come up with offline, and if not, then we fall back to bring a notice of motion. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Gardner, did you have anything else for new business?
That's all I can think of at the moment.
Okay, so I'll start with you. Public service announcements.
I thought Councillor Humphreys was gonna say something about Yellow Brick House.
Yeah, I was, but I thought, is that new business?
Public service.
Public service.
Yeah, public service.
Okay.
I would say, am I on for public service or?
If Councillor Gardner doesn't have anything, I'm moving to you. Councillor Humphreys, go ahead.
Okay, I just got a couple of things to you, Mr. Mayor. One, yes, Yellow Brick House event is coming up. I believe a few of us are going. Let's try to make it a table if possible. Things are pretty bad. I think you probably heard about what happened on the weekend by our neighbors to the south. Very scary times, and I think anything we can do to help during these tougher times to have people have safe havens and safe places to go during these situations, that would be wonderful. So if that's possible, it'd be great, guys. Let's all get together, and I think it's a Zoom Zoom type
Yeah.
of situation. Really would be a lot of fun. Secondly, I just wanted to share that through you, Mr. Mayor, the committee you put together through Aurora Cares and Councillor Gart and I sit on. Just wanted a big shout out to the group of volunteers that attend that committee. They were challenged with helping not just seniors, but all our residents, focus on seniors absolutely, but all our residents in Aurora in need for food, shelter, safety, you name it. I want a huge shout out to communications with Cindy Shavers and Eliza, along with Ivy from customer service, Ivy Henderson. I don't want to miss anyone here. Carrie from Seniors Helps with Senior Centers. Within less than a month, we were able to put advertising in the Auroran to share with our community the assistance that the town of Aurora will provide for all residents in need. Councillor Gardner helped enormously in getting flyers to be negotiated for handout at our local super center, and no frills. I just wanted to again thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing this to happen. There's a lot of people in need, and our town staff were able to train front staff to get those calls, to create an IT email that's monitored 24/7, and to train our after-hours support, so that when there's somebody in need and they call our main number, they'll get some help. I can't thank you enough. I know it all started with someone, I think, approaching the mayor, that there was a senior outside a grocery store in tears. They couldn't afford to buy any food. And someone in Aurora felt that way. And I see it week after week at Welcoming Arms. We're serving meals for those in need. So times are getting tough for a lot of people. And I just can't thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Gardner, the rest of council, and all of staff that really are pulling and helping our community during these really difficult times. Staff have gone through so much to make this happen since the beginning, but even now to have this occur, and just the way it does with, we'll make the pathways, we'll remove roadblocks and do what we need to do. So it means a lot to our community, to our residents, and I can't thank you very enough. I know I miss people, but hopefully I did the justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Thompson, PSA.
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to add to Councillor Gardner's question with regards to vaccines, if that's okay. There are other provinces that allow for pharmacies and pharmacists to administer. I think we heard today that all local pharmacies will also be administering. And with respect to here in Ontario, I do know that the pharmacy associations certainly are, actively engaging with the powers that be to express their interest in helping and being part of the solution and administering it. So hopefully, it will happen sooner rather than later. I think that obviously, we all want to get people vaccinated as soon as possible so we can get to the other side of this. So I do know what's happening in other provinces, and so I'm optimistic that it'll happen here sooner rather than later.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kim, public service announcement.
Thank you. Tomorrow, Wednesday, between 2 to 8, there's testing going on at George Street School here in Aurora. So from 2 to 4 time slot to individuals with symptoms of COVID-19 or have had close contacts of a confirmed COVID case. That's 2 to 4, and 4:30 to 8 p.m. are for those individuals with no known exposure. So if you want to get tested for your own peace of mind, it's available tomorrow and the subsequent or the next 2 Wednesdays at the George Street School.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gallo, PSA? No. I got a few, Council. I on the topic of vaccines and the pandemic. So today was the second day of vaccines for residents 80 plus. So the region started March 1st, well ahead of what the province is looking at rolling out, where their online booking is going to start March 22nd. I can tell you right now, the region is roughly doing in 2 days, we've done roughly 4,000 per day. That's 80 plus for 80 plus age residents. So by late March, possibly by March 22nd, when the province opens up, we could actually have in our region all of those 80 plus vaccinated, which is an incredible feat. We're pushing ahead, and as I've said many times, as long as we get the vaccines, we get the supply, we will get them in people's arms. And I'll quote the general who has said this on many of our calls when we sit down and we go through the vaccination plans, and he says, speed trumps perfection when it comes to this. It's about getting it into people's arms. We need to get it into as many people's arms as quickly as possible. And I got to say, I'm proud so far of what public health has been able to achieve. We're ahead of most regions. While we'd like to be much more further ahead, we're not at that pace because of the supply. Once the supply comes, we will get it in everyone's arms. And so it's encouraging to see the efforts that everyone's going through. Obviously, we could always do better. And I can tell you right now that public health is looking at some of the challenges that they are having. We saw some of the things with lineups in regards to, as Councillor Gardner mentioned, as far as, access is how far it is for some of our senior population to get to some of these centers. But I can tell you that York Region Public Health is doing everything they can to look at all the issues and try to mitigate them as much as possible. It's not going to be perfect. But it's about getting everyone vaccinated as quickly as possible. And that's what we're trying to achieve here. So I'll go through some public service announcements. On March 3rd, the town is hosting the second virtual open house of 4 in phase 2 of our official plan review. Each open house focuses on a different key area of the review. This week's discussion will center around the town's natural heritage network. Interested in our town's natural landscape and preserving and improving our local network of environmental features, there's still time to RSVP. Sign up now by visiting engageaurora.ca/OPR. If you're looking for updates on Aurora's Library Square project, a key part of Aurora's exciting downtown revitalization plan, please visit engageaurora.ca/Library Square. And don't forget to subscribe to the consultation page to receive email updates. From March 12th to March 28th, the town of Aurora, in partnership with the Canadian Food and Wine Institute and the Aurora Chamber of Commerce, is proud to bring Aurora-licious to go to Aurora. This event gives patrons an opportunity to savor the flavors of Aurora by purchasing from a prefix program. And based on the provincial guidelines during the timing of Aurora-licious to go, some restaurants may offer dine-in as well as takeout. For more information, please visit exploreaurora.ca/Aurora-licious. It's a great way to support our local restaurants and businesses. Aurora residents between the ages of 12 and 17 who enjoy singing and sharing their talent are encouraged to register from now until June 4th for Aurora's Teen Idol. New this year, $500 in available prizes to be won. For more information, please visit aurora.ca/Teen Idol. Also, applications for the town's 2021 Community Recognition Awards are now open and being accepted until April 2nd. This flagship event recognizes volunteers and their impact on our town. Nominate someone today, and for more information, including the various categories, visit aurora.ca/CRA. We all know volunteers are the backbone of our community, and we're extremely fortunate in our town that we have quite a number of volunteers that come out and help us out all the time and help out every facet of our community. So it's an incredible event, and I know we each enjoy it every year. So get out, nominate someone, and let's recognize them. Applications are now being accepted for this year's John West Memorial Scholarship. The scholarship is open to all Aurora students entering their first year of full-time post-secondary study. The deadline to apply is Saturday, May 1st. For more details, please visit aurora.ca/leaders of tomorrow. And I did last one. If you haven't checked it out, go check out Yonge Street. Caruso's, where Caruso's used to be, window art project installation, first one. Local artist Corey Clark did a fantastic job. She's moving on to do a couple of other ones. Councillor Humphreys and our Economic Development Corporation Board have done a lot of work in this pilot project, and a donation and funding by Magna. So it's an incredible art project. Go check it out. I think a lot of people are going to go down there and be amazed at the display in the windows. Councillor Gardner, did you have something you want to add?
Thank you. I've heard it's wonderful. I'm just wondering, can other artists get involved with this?
And I'll let Councillor Humphreys answer, but I believe this is going to be an evolving project. This is the first one. I think it's going to grow. It's going to move towards the BIA. This was just to start it and to see what it could look like and how it can kind of transform the area. But I'll let Councillor Humphreys add on to that.
Well, okay, go ahead.
Just, yeah, absolutely, Councillor Gardner. This is a pilot project, sort of a small step. Corey Clark was the artist that approached the town and had this amazing idea. Started off with storefront vacant windows and just said, you know, when she was out west, there was a problematic in some areas. And when there's some interest in themes and windows, it created some interest and, you know, that sort of, hey, what's happening downtown, and actually stimulated the economy. She saw within several months that she lived there that people were booking the stores and the window fronts would change and go to different areas. So it's almost, you know, it drums excitement rather than sort of an emptiness. But absolutely, to your point, it's a great idea. It's a pilot project. You know, I think it will be moving to the BIA. They're the right area, the right group to own this. And absolutely, it's all artists in the future would probably love an opportunity. There's other ideas. In fact, someone thought, what about an art gallery? A whole street of art gallery and for everyone's windows. So all the artists, we can, you know, maybe we can't go to a building, but we certainly could walk outside. And this is for future thoughts as well. Should these things, this type of situation be prolonged? Can you imagine looking at Yonge Street artworks from all different artists? So absolutely, Councillor Gardner, you're right on the money for that. And absolutely, that's the intent in the future. But for now, it's a sort of a little project handled by Corey Clark as a pilot.
And I'll just add to that, Councillor, that we, like, some of the ideas that have been thrown around as well is also to look at partnering and working with the school boards, as well as we do with the Mayor Celebration of Arts that's coming up as well, right? So maybe we could utilize and having the students going in and doing and putting their artwork in the windows and with the businesses and working with the businesses that are there. So that's some of the ideas that are being bandied about at the subcommittee at the Economic Development Board.
Good, thank you, because window dressing, I mean, Fifth Avenue is famous for window dressing. Why shouldn't we be?
Absolutely, that's the idea. Absolutely. Any other public service announcements? No, actually, I do have one more. Our clerk just reminded me to announce our Committee of Adjustment appointees. So congratulations to Linda Duringer and David Mango, who will be joining our Committee of Adjustment. So just make that announcement. So with that, we will move to adjournment. Someone like to move that? Councillor Thompson, second. Councillor Kim, no one wants to adjourn? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Stay safe, everyone, and we'll see you actually, I think 2 weeks or 3, 2.